call and buses. The maintenance people are just on.
The leader has muted your line. To unmute your line, press #6.
Good morning, this is Roger Erickson with the National Weather Service in Lake Charles with our update on Hurricane Harvey, or Hurricane Barry, I should say, at 10:30 in the morning on Saturday, July 13th. Our first slide, in the overview, Barry is now a Category 1 hurricane with winds of 75 miles an hour. The rest of the slides are pretty much, I should say, the rest of the information in this opening slides is very similar to what we were saying yesterday. 10 to 15 inches of rain with locally higher amounts for St. Mary, Iberia, St. Martin parishes. Storm surge of 3 feet for Vermilion, Iberia, St. Mary parishes. Damaging winds that's going to cause scattered and numerous power outages and trees blown down, damage to homes and businesses, and some isolated tornadoes. This is the latest graphic that shows where the storm is located right now and where it's projected to go. So right now it's right on the edge of Vermilion Parish, a little bit south of Intercoastal City. As of 10 o'clock this morning, it's a 75 mile an hour Category 1 hurricane. You can see by 7 p.m. tonight, they just have it northwest of Lafayette. So it's going to be a slow mover, not going very far in the first 12 hours or so here. And then by tomorrow morning, they have it just northwest of Alexandria. So I don't think it's going to stay hurricane force very long. It'll probably go back to a tropical storm, and it'll continue to weaken during the day and overnight hours tonight. The threats for us locally, still the big threat is going to be the rainfall, followed by the winds and the surge and tornadoes down below that. The satellite imagery looks a little bit better organized this morning. Still a lot of heavy rain offshore in the southern half of the circulation with minimal rain in the north. But we are expecting that as Barry moves inland, the rains will be increasing throughout the day and night and even into Sunday. So here's the kind of a composite of the radar imagery. You can see we've got some patch of rain in Lake Charles, Cameron Parish region. And we're starting to see some rain bands move onshore over in the Morgan City region. But you can see the heavier stuff is still offshore south of Morgan City. That's what's going to be coming in there over the next several hours. Also of note is a large heavy band that's well to the east. There's one near New Orleans and another one there over between Pascagoula and Mobile region. So, like a lot of tropical systems, these rain bands aren't just one localized area. They can be spread out over very large regions. The wind potential threat is similar to what we were showing yesterday. The hurricane force wind probabilities for Vermilion, Lafayette, St. Martin, Iberia, and St. Mary parishes. And then the strong and tropical storm force winds basically east of the Lake Charles to Leesville line. And then the lower end of the tropical storm force winds for southeast Texas, and then for Cameron, Lake Charles, and Leesville. The wind gusts so far today, it may be a difficult graphic for everyone to see out there, but we had a wind gust offshore at the bottom and center of the graphic here that shows 91 mile an hour wind gusts. That was one of the offshore oil platforms. 55 miles an hour is the highest winds we have so far in St. Mary Parish. Although I will say it was 61 miles an hour at the mouth of the Atchafalaya River earlier today as well. 39 miles an hour up in New Iberia. So the winds are going to be increasing as we go throughout the day today, and we'll show an update on this later on this afternoon. Kind of zoomed in on the south central Louisiana. There's that 61 miles an hour wind that I was talking about at the mouth of the Atchafalaya River. 61 miles an hour south of Morgan City and 55 in Patterson. And I believe the gauge there went out because of the power outages that we're starting to see over in that area. So we're expecting, tropical storm force winds across the region, and these are kind of the timelines for the area. And I've also threw the gust numbers up on this slide here as well. So we'll talk about, in this case here, the 60 to 75 mile an hour wind gusts. That would be for Lafayette, Upper St. Martin, Lower St. Martin, and St. Mary parishes. That's the focus region to see those stronger winds. I should say Iberia as well. I'll have to change that slide there, but that's the 65 to 75 mile an hour wind gust range. That will be a possibility this morning through probably about, I'd say, midday to maybe at the latest 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and not much later than that. And then the winds will be decreasing after that time frame. Here's some of the power outage maps that we've looked at already. This is from CLECO, showing clusters of thunderstorms up and down Highway 90. The Entergy map shows widespread outages down in the Houma region and portions of the Baton Rouge region as well. More isolated outages in southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana. The storm surge warning continues, same location that we had it out from yesterday, and the values of the water looks similar as well. Here's a couple of the gauges that we're monitoring. The freshwater canal locks over near Intercoastal City in Vermilion Parish, it's running about 1 to 2 feet above normal. That will change later on today when the winds shift out of the south, and the numbers there will go higher. We're expecting it to go up to 3 to 5 feet above normal. Amaretto Pass in St. Mary Parish has already gone up to 4 to 5 feet above normal over there, and that will probably hold steady for the remainder of today. Now, further to the west, both the Sabine Pass North gauge in Jefferson County and the Calcasieu Pass gauge down in Cameron Parish are running fairly close to normal right now, and that's with the northerly wind component. But tomorrow, when the winds shift out of south, we do expect the waters to get 1 to 2 feet above normal at both of those sites as well. And so that may require a coastal flood advisory. And if the winds end up being stronger than what we're currently advertised, then it could potentially be even higher, and we would have to go with a coastal flood warning tomorrow. The rainfall graphic looks like this. An inch of rain in southeast Texas, 2 to 3 in Lake Charles, 4 to 6 in Lafayette, 10 to 15 in Morgan City. I broke it down by 6-hourly windows to kind of give people an idea of the perspective of the long-duration rain event that we're expecting for south central Louisiana. So the graphic on the left shows the bullseye of the rain down there from basically Morgan City eastward to 1 p.m. today. And then in the afternoon graphic, you can see it extends further inland across portions of Vermilion Parish, Iberia, St. Mary, and St. Martin parishes. So that's what we're looking at for the daytime period today. Then looking at it through tonight, you can see a very large swath that extends from basically Lafayette eastward between 7 p.m. tonight and 1 o'clock Sunday morning, and then between 1 a.m. Sunday and 7 a.m. Sunday, still a continuation of at least an inch of rain from Lafayette eastward. So that's just going to be the focus region for where the rain band's just going to be set up for a long-duration event here during this scenario. Even during the day on Sunday, this is the graphic on the left, 7 a.m. Sunday to 1 p.m. Sunday, showing the large numbers starting to decrease down in St. Mary Parish finally, but still being good numbers from Lafayette to Baton Rouge northward. And then finally in the afternoon, you can see the rain band will probably extend from the Lake Charles region over towards St. Landry Parish for the focus for the heavier rains during the afternoon and evening hours tomorrow. So with all being said, the excessive rainfall outlook for today and tonight is basically Vermilion, Lafayette, St. Martin, Iberia, and St. Mary parishes. That's the focus area that we're looking at in the immediate time frame between now and tomorrow morning, where we're expecting roads to become impassable and homes can see water come into them in these areas. Along the rivers, the forecast has not been updated, so this is still yesterday's forecast, where the Bayou Vermilion, the Carencro forecast shows 19 feet, and the Surrey Street gauge shows a forecast up to 15 feet. Same thing down at Morgan City. They are finally increasing down there, the actual observations. You can see it's going higher, but we're looking at 9 foot for the crest still. I wouldn't be surprised if that number has to get bumped up to 9.5, but we'll see what they do later on this afternoon. The tornado threat mainly is going to be in our eastern area, New Iberia, Morgan City region today and tonight, and then tomorrow more like up in central Louisiana. So our final slide here is just a repeat of what we had in the opening slide. Barry being a Category 1 hurricane.
The leader has unmuted your line.
Issues coming into the region now for the remainder of today, tonight, and into tomorrow. So does anyone have any weather questions for me?
Okay, well, I know it's generated a lot of interest. Barry has become a hurricane. We don't expect it to be a hurricane very long period of time. In fact, it will likely be downgraded to tropical storm shortly after it goes inland, and it may remain at hurricane status this afternoon, but certainly by this evening, probably around the 10 p.m. hurricane advisory update. we think it'll probably drop down to a tropical storm. Big takeaways, at least for our region here locally today, you've been noticing a lot of misty type of rain bands. If you've looked at the radar, we are getting rain bands. We're not seeing those big rain bands like you're seeing across, say, southeast Louisiana, even further east. It looks like around the Mississippi, Alabama coast, some really large rain bands are extending well away from Barry. So I think for the most part, if you noticed, our rainfall amounts are going to be, we think, fairly light here today, and maybe even it looks like even into tonight. Our main concern is going to be some of the rain bands organizing once this system moves further north, say up into northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas. So we just got to keep an eye on how these rain bands organize. As Roger mentioned too, we're not going to be seeing a lot of coastal flood issues in the near term because we're getting more of a northeasterly wind flow. It's not making the tides below normal, but right around normal. But we do think tides will likely be increasing here, especially on Sunday and even into early next week. We're going to probably have some pretty good strong onshore flow. So that's typical. It happened during Lily, it happened during Rita, and so forth. So expect especially across Cameron Parish, and certainly tides above normal in the Calcasieu River as well. So those are going to be the main impacts. And as far as winds today, we've been getting some gusts around 20 to 30 miles per hour. They'll likely increase. I think Roger's hit it on actually a worst case scenario as far as wind gusts for our area, around 50, 60 miles per hour. I think generally we're going to probably see them increase to around 30 or 40 miles per hour. It's possible we'll likely see maybe that might be strong enough to generate some more power outages around the area, but right now we think for the most part after today and early tonight especially, the winds will start dying down. Any questions?
Thanks, Andy. I think, obviously the public interest will go up due to it being named a hurricane. As Andy said, from a weather standpoint, there's not that much difference between a tropical storm and a hurricane. But with the increased wind, one of the things I think we should all be thinking about are two things. One is the power, which you talked about, and the other is going to be traffic. High winds on those bridges. We don't, any increase in wind up there is not going to be a good thing. So from our standpoint, we're planning probably on closing today at noon, but it looks like now we'll be hosting the 4 o'clock weather brief. Because of the slow movement of the storm, we'll probably be here till later, but I'll let Paul comment on that. That's about all I have. We have Senator John here with us and Marshall Salvador, so appreciate you being here. Paul?
Good morning, everybody. With the ESFs, really nothing has really changed. The only thing that we have put in so far is we put our local Lang on standby with some boats and some high water vehicles, and I'm going to let Sergeant First Class Castile talk on that.
So basically right now we have 4 boats, manpower, 4 high water vehicles staged, ready to go at the armory. We also have backup personnel, any other assets that will be put into Web EOC, we'll be ready for it.
The other resource that I'd like to talk about this morning is our 211, and I'm going to let our representative come up here. It's already on.
Good morning. For those of you who aren't aware, 211 is a local information and referral service. And really anyone anywhere in the country can simply dial that number, 211, from a landline or any cell and reach a 211 certified operator who can help direct them when there's a need, or whether they can't pay their light bill or they need food or whatever it happens to be. Here in Southwest Louisiana, 211 is actually a program of United Way of Southwest Louisiana. It operates 24/7, 365. normally in sunshine, but in this type of situation, we actually ramp up and we start putting in information related to the disaster. So number one, what I'd like for you to know is to know that we exist, and if you have a service that you're providing or any information that you would just like the residents of Southwest Louisiana to know about your organization and your efforts here, please get with me so that we can put it into the system, because the more information and the sooner we have it, the sooner that we can give it out to the public who's actually calling us. We, during Hurricane Harvey, received over 10,000 phone calls. So just so you know that within a normal year, we receive about 20,000 calls. So we wanted you to know that we're here. The other thing, if your organization receives a lot of phone calls that could be sent to 211, just either have your staff refer them directly to 211, or if you're interested in doing a warm transfer, please get with me. We'd be more than happy. That way your department can just push a button and they will end up talking to a 211 operator. But we are here. The governor actually activated 211 in Louisiana yesterday. We're now all up and down I-10 on at the big lights going up and down Interstate 10. We are, like, for example, we also have a texting platform, and if you text to 898-211, and then you put in, like, Louisiana shelter, and then your zip code, it will pop up and tell you where the nearest shelter is for you. So that's actively going on right now. So we just want to make sure that Southwest Louisiana is aware of the service, and I'll be back here in the back if any of you want to talk to me after about the service and about how we can connect, our organizations can work together. So thank you.
Coast Guard? Nothing? So we're at Yankee right now.
You speaking to it?
Yeah, now push the button. Turns green.
So we do currently have a helo that will be here for at least 24 hours at Chenal Airport. So any air support, you can contact us at the Marine Safety Unit.
The EOC, we're planning on going down to a skeleton crew, but we will be here for most of the day, probably until at least 1800, and then we'll be back around 2 hours before the winds kick up and we will be open. Even if we're not here, call 911. 911 will page us for any resource requests, and we can put those resource requests in right away. 439-9911. The building code. Since it's the weekend, we can't just have the doors unlocked. So the building code to get in here for this afternoon's brief and throughout the weekend will be 1057 hashtag or pound. Does anybody have any other comments, concerns? Again, we'll be back here at 16:30 for our afternoon briefing. Thank you.